Cleaning of contaminated work surfaces after completion of procedures is required to ensure that employees are not unwittingly exposed to blood or other potentially infectious material that may still remain on a surface from a previous procedure. Appropriate disinfectants include a diluted bleach solution, Environmental Protection Agency or EPA registered tuberculicides, EPA registered sterilants, or products registered as effective against HIV or HBV. The list of these EPA registered products are available from the EPA at the telephone number 1-800-424-9346, or you can also find it at the EPA website, epa.gov. The list of products registered against HIV and HBV includes quaternary ammonia products that EPA has approved as effective against HIV and HBV. These products can be used to comply with the California Section 5193, provided the surfaces on which they're used have not become contaminated with agents or volumes or concentrations of agents for which higher levels of disinfection are recommended. Disinfectant products must be used according to all label instructions, including the concentration, the volume to be applied on a given surface area, and the contact time. Now we're going to talk about how to disinfect contaminated work surfaces. There's several things that we're going to start with. First of all, there's certain materials you've got to have present to be able to do this properly. Personal protective equipment is the utmost important. So if you think there's a chance that you're going to get a splash in the eyes, get it on your clothing, you need to have personal protective equipment equivalent to what you're going to need to do. So let's say this was machinery that you've got to spray down and there's a chance that it could splash back. You might have a disposable apron with gloves and a face shield, eye shield combination. In this case, this is a flat work surface. We have some droplets of blood from an injury that took place a while ago. The blood is already starting to coagulate, and so it's not going to splash anywhere unless I do it. So we just need to have care when we do that. I'm going to make sure that I've got at least a few pair of gloves because we want to remember that we're actually going to be changing our gloves every time we might touch contamination and then go to a clean object. So when I first do the first wipe down, I'm going to throw all that away, put new gloves on properly, then grab my bleach solution, spray down the surface, wipe it down, throw that away, take off the gloves appropriately, and then yet a third pair of gloves to grab the bottle and spray down for our wet to dry disinfecting time. And you'll see that as we go here in how I'm going to display this. We also want to make sure that we've got the right kind of cleaning material, wiping material. You don't want to use toilet paper that's going to shred, or maybe like household napkins. They tend to break down when fluids, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for maybe a more commercial grade paper towel or something that's appropriate to wipe up these spills. So let's go ahead and get started. If there were any sharp objects, remember we would remove those sharp objects, broken glass, sharps, needles, things like that, with tongs, put them into a contaminated sharps protecting basin of sorts so that we could disinfect that at a later time or dispose of it properly in a sharps container. We do not have any sharps, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my first pair of gloves. After my first pair of gloves are on, I'm going to take my towels and I'm going to wipe down, being careful not to cross-contaminate. I want to keep all the fluids on the surface and just kind of wipe up the majority of the copious amounts of the spill. We're not trying to get it perfect. Then we're going to properly remove the gloves. Then the finger on the inside, into the trash it goes. Now we don our second pair of clean gloves. You might notice these are blue gloves. These are the nitrile gloves, but these are medical grade. You want to make sure that your gloves are medical grade so that the pores of whatever the protecting barrier is small enough to protect from any of the infectious diseases, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV. Industrial grade gloves may not have that quality. The pores may be too big. They may have permeable pinhole sized things in there. They're not graded the same as medical grade gloves. So that's a distinguishing piece you want to be careful about. Now, this is a really big one. You can look this up on the CDC's guidelines, but I'm going to simplify it for you here. The Centers for Disease Control will say 1 part household bleach to 9 parts water to make the appropriate solution that is strong enough to kill all bloodborne pathogens. That's important to remember, and it can be in any size increment that's appropriate. But now I'm going to take my bleach solution, which is extremely cost effective. If you use another chemical to disinfect, you just need to remember that that chemical must be legally approved to kill the appropriate microorganisms to disinfect and to protect against viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens. So you'll want to make sure that you're using an industry-grade appropriate chemical if you're not going to use the bleach solution. Grab a couple more of the paper towels. Now we're wiping down the surface that's been sprayed with the bleach solution in this case, making sure not to cross-contaminate and spill it off the edges. If it does, then we're going to have some floor to clean up. Once again, glove on glove, skin on skin for removing the gloves. Now I throw those in the trash. And now one more time. I know this seems redundant, but this is so that we're not cross-contaminating between potentially infectious materials and clean items. And that would be the same as if you were grabbing fresh paper towels or opening doors or whatever the case may be, taking off your gown. If you were to take off your gown that might have splash on it, you would take it off with dirty gloves, then take the dirty gloves off, throw them in the trash. Grab another pair of clean gloves, and then take off your face shield with your eye shield and throw that in the trash, and then put on new clean gloves. So we're always making sure to put a barrier, which we talked about earlier, to break the route of infection. That's why personal protective equipment is so effective. Lastly, with clean gloves on, we're going to lightly mist the surface that was contaminated. This would include a floor or materials, and now we allow this surface to evaporate. The evaporation time from wet to dry is the appropriate amount of time for bleach solution, and in many cases even industrial strength disinfectants, to actually have what we call a kill time. And that's important to remember when you're doing the final step of this disinfection of a contaminated surface.